Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast with your host, Lorna Poole, sharing the secrets to creating wealth, investing, and that all-important money mindset. To find out more and accelerate your journey to financial freedom, head on over to www.lornapoole.com to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast. Are you somebody who's looking to be a new landlord and invest in rental property? Well, my guest expert today, Justin Pogue, is an author and real estate consultant based in San Jose, California. His services are sought after by property management companies, investors, and real estate consulting companies alike. Justin's been on Fox News, the Mercury News, San Francisco Gate, is that correct?
Yes.
Realtator.com and apartmenttherapy.com have all featured his insights for the benefit of their audience. Justin got a start in real estate by purchasing properties on the lands available list in the state of Florida. Since 2003, he has developed and managed apartments, rental homes, student housing across the United States. Justin, great to have you here.
Very happy to be here, Lorna. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. So property is a biggie for investors. It's one of the go-tos. And a lot of people look at it as an option.
Yes, they do. And it's an interesting option because it's one of those asset classes where you really have total control over your product. You know, like, for example, if you invest in stock, like, you don't get to control what decisions Microsoft makes.
No, that's true.
You don't have no input on that. But in terms of real estate, you have input on all of the details. What color paint do you want to put on the walls? Do you want it to be furnished or not? What neighborhood do you want your investment to be in? Or even what city you want it to be in? So all of those details are up to the investor. And that is good in some ways because it provides a certain amount of control, but it can also create a lot of anxiety among potential investors or first-time property investors.
Yeah, because we're talking to new landlords, so that could be a good thing or a scary thing, right?
Right.
And property, it's one of these asset classes that's not easy liquidated in a hurry. So that can bring its benefits and not benefits. For somebody who's considering property and they're new to it, what's the big things, or how do they go about it? As you said, you know, there's different ways to invest in property. There's different parts of the world or even in the States that are better or worse, or neighborhoods. So there's a lot to think about.
Yes, there is a lot to think about. But when I talk to first-time or potential property buyers or potential property investors, I focus on the mindset, first of all. How are you thinking about your investment, and what is your level of risk tolerance? That's where I start, because it's important to understand that there are a lot of real estate seminars out there, and that's typically where investors, start getting their information from.
Yes,
the real estate seminars really talk about all these sexy
other people's money and all this jazz.
Well, they talk about all the sexy parts of real estate, the tax deductions and the residual income and the appreciation. They talk about all of those great benefits, but very, very few of them talk about what is actually involved in operating a property and making it function so that those cash flows and that appreciation actually appears later on. They just talk about all the sexy stuff and they move on to the next city, and you're the one as the investor that's left to make all of those things happen. So one of the pieces of advice I give to first-time property buyers is, wherever you're going to invest in property, get connected to real estate investment groups in that geography. Can I say that because those investors who are already functioning in that geography, They know the ins, they'll know the legal ins and outs within that geography. They'll know which person is the best person to talk to at the permit off something that you're trying to get done. They'll have an idea of which neighborhoods within that city might be more beneficial or less beneficial based on the type of clientele you're trying to rent to.
Yeah, because they're already doing it, so it works in that area.
Yes, yes.
And as you say, things that you don't always think about is, well, who do you want to rent your property? What type of rental are you looking at? Is a multiple or family or buy to rent?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And who you're the type of person, the type of people that you're targeting, are you targeting young families? Are you targeting working class singles? Are you targeting blue collar employees? Are you targeting more luxury white collar employees? And those pieces of that information is going to determine how much you may choose to improve the property. If you're going for high end luxury, then you're going to need to put marble countertops or Carrera countertops in the kitchen, for example. Whereas if you're not targeting that particular group, the Formica countertops may be fine because you may be targeting a group that's more cost conscious and looking for a lower rent amount each month. So it's really important that once you choose a property, that you don't over improve it for the type of resident that you're going to have in that particular property, because this is not someplace that you're going to live. It doesn't need to meet your livability standards. It needs to meet the standards of the clientele that you're going to be renting to.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So, and that will come under the consideration of the money you're putting into the property, right?
Yes, absolutely. Another tip for first-time property buyers is you're looking for properties that have problems. And the reason why I say that is most people are watching these home and garden HGTV, or they're watching these home shows on television, and the homes look great and they're pristine and they're all polished and all of that. Well, you have to understand that when you buy that property, you're paying for the status that it's in now. So you're paying for the property to be perfect, and they're charging you for that in the purchase price.
Yeah,
Whereas
so you need to buy potential.
Right. Whereas if you buy a property that people have commonly passed over because it wasn't cleaned up, the paint wasn't done, the flooring might be messed up, the front and backyards are overgrown. These are all cosmetic things that a property investor can come in and fix and repair, and then present a polished new product to the marketplace. And that way you're not having to put as much money into the property up front to pay for work that someone else has already done to the property.
Yeah, because isn't a big part of it is knowing that looking at that the numbers are going to add up from what you purchased to what you're putting into it to, what the rent's going to be and, what income that's going to give you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why it's important to really sit down and at least do a list, if not a spreadsheet, related to what are the different types of expenses that I'm going to have relative to this property. In addition, most investors will have some type of mortgage payment. There'll be some kind of property taxes that they have to pay. And sometimes the landlord's responsible for utilities, sometimes not, depending on what the property is and how those are broken out. Sometimes the landlord's responsible for landscaping and upkeep. Other times the landlord can make that the responsibility of the resident. So list out those expenses that you'll have on a monthly basis, and you see if the rent amount that you can charge will cover those expenses. And the best thing is to go into the situation with your eyes open and ask as many questions as possible. But also know all of those little butterflies in your stomach are not going to go away based on all the questions that you ask, the books that you read, the research that you do. Those little butterflies will only go away once you actually pull the trigger and invest in something.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's uncertainty, right?
Yeah. It is a lot of uncertainty because there's a lot. What if I can't find somebody to rent the property? What if I find somebody and I have to evict them? And there's a lot of unknowns. But first-time investors should know that there are people who have done this before. They have been successful at it. And there are answers to those questions that are available when you get to those points in your investment journey, where people can give you insight into those. And that's another place where those local real estate clubs really become a really valuable resource for you.
Yeah, because it's only by taking the action, getting the foot in the door, do you learn what works and what doesn't work and what shows up along the way, right? Because there's no point sitting here at a desk saying I want to invest in property, but until you really get into it, as you say, the groups, they're already going through it. So, when you make connections and friends, there are associates, perhaps they've already been through it and can give you the answer.
Yeah. And there's actually another tip that I would mention is that as a landlord, your relationship with your renter is of the utmost importance. The quality of the person that you're renting to will really determine how easy or difficult your investment ultimately ends up being. So when you find a good resident, that's in the property, that's taking care of the property, that pays rent on time, it is in your best interest to hold on to that resident as long as possible, because vacancy or having an empty property, that is your biggest enemy. And I say that because not only are you not getting rent for that month when your property is vacant, you can't get that money back. It's gone forever. It's not like a car where if I don't sell it today, I can sell it tomorrow. I can't rent a property, from last week. I can't rent time in a property from last week. I can only rent time in a property going forward. So keeping that quality relationship with your resident, being responsive to them and what's going on with the property will make it a lot easier for you to get those cash flows and get that appreciation that were mentioned in the real estate seminars.
Yeah, absolutely. We rent where I am here, and we have a good relationship. So when you were talking there, I was like, oh, yeah, he's got a point. And he would have went through all that and really vetted us and everything. And it's very costly if you do not have a good person to rent with. They can put you through a lot of cost, mentally, physically, and your pocket, right?
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why when I talk to new investors, I talk to them about mindset and risk aversion, because there is going to be some stress involved in this process, especially if you end up with one of those bad renters who don't take care of the property and don't pay rent on time and those kinds of issues.
So risk aversion is who's renting your property, right?
So
there are more things to consider.
Risk aversion is specific to the landlord or the investor. How much risk am I willing to take on in this investment?
So how do you weigh up the risk? Let's go there actually.
So the risks that you're weighing out are how much do I have to invest?
Yeah.
Okay. And what percentage of that am I going to hold in reserve versus what percentage of that am I going to put into this particular investment? So having some financial cushion in reserve will allow you to fix or repair things on the property should they need that. And if you didn't expect them, having money in reserve will allow you to still resolve those problems and move forward. So that's the first way that people can start to affect the level of risk that they're taking. Another way you can affect the risk of the level of risk that you're taking is looking at the neighborhood that you're investing in. Is this neighborhood stable?
Mm-hmm.
Is it declining? Is it an up and coming neighborhood? And one little trick for that is a number of investors look at what restaurants are in the neighborhood and what ratings those restaurants get.
Oh, really?
If you see restaurants moving into an area and those restaurants are getting good ratings, then that neighborhood may be on an upswing. So that's one kind of quick way to look at it and see if that's a neighborhood that you may want to consider. Other ways to mitigate risk. What types of finishes are you putting into the property? Are you using materials that are long lasting and durable, or are you using materials that you'll have to replace, frequently? So there are a number of ways that potential landlord can mitigate the risk and reduce it. But the bottom line is, whatever level of risk that investment has, it needs to be a level of risk that will still allow you to sleep well at night.
Yeah, makes sense. It's interesting because everything you're saying is so accurate and on point. But there's a lot of people that end up invest in property without doing all this sort of homework or preparing or doing the research, and then they find themselves caught out and very burdened by the property.
When investing in property, you really make your money on the front end. The money appears on the back end, but where you actually make it is on the front end.
So explain that a bit more.
So what I mean by that is, when you're looking at a property, you're looking for the worst property in the best neighborhood.
Yeah.
If there's a really great neighborhood that's met all of your criteria, whatever those may be, you're looking for the property that has the chipped exterior, the paint falling off of the walls, the overgrown front yard, the property that may not be laid out properly. The kitchen may be in a bad place. The living room may not be set up for modern living. You're looking for properties that have those kinds of problems, because correcting those problems will actually increase the value of the property. And it's a difference between forced appreciation and market appreciation. So forced appreciation is appreciation that I can create and I can control based on what the market is. So when I look at a rental unit, for instance, if I add washer and dryer to that unit, that means I can actually charge more in rent for that unit because I'm adding a feature, I'm adding a benefit to that unit. That creates forced appreciation. That unit is now worth more because I added that. And that is very different than market appreciation, where the outside market determines what my property is worth, and that may go up or down, and I need control over that. But I do have control over adding features and benefits and enhancements to my property to make it worth more to others.
And when it's worth more, you can rent it for more, and therefore you're bringing in more every month.
Yes.
Plus the capital difference, I presume.
Yeah. Let's see. So another way that initial investors think about limiting risk is to hire a property manager, for instance, to manage their property for them. And this is a topic that a lot of investors deal with. When choosing a property management company, though, it's important to hire a company that understands the particular type of tenants that you're renting to. If you're renting to blue collar working individuals, you don't want a company that typically deals with luxury properties, because the relationship is not, they're going to have difficulty creating the proper relationship with the clients that you have.
Yeah, Justin, what you've shared has been amazing, and I love that you brought up as well about the relationship you have with the people, because anything in life, business or any success, is about your relationships with people. So that's huge, and I love the way you spoke about the money comes from the front end, and thinking about the property you're buying, and what problems are the best problems to buy, and you've shared amazing information with us. So Justin, what's the kind of one aha? So a new landlord is listening to this, they're getting ideas from what you're sharing. What's that kind of one thing you want to leave them with?
One thing I'd like to leave your listeners with is that they are actually more capable than they think they are. They are bringing creativity, talent, and expertise to this investing from whatever background they have. And that creativity and expertise can enhance the property that they're looking to rent to someone. So you don't have to wait for permission from some real estate guru to start investing. You have many of the tools that you need right now to move forward. And a lot of people underestimate what they're capable of doing, and we're all really worse off because they underestimate themselves.
Thank you. And I would completely agree with that. And I think that's a powerful message to leave here on. So, Justin, how does somebody find out more about you or reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm based in San Jose, California. I'm the author of a book called Rental Secrets. And my website is rentalsecrets.net. They can send me a message there. I'm also on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And on each of those social media platforms, I provide a tip for landlords and renters each day.
Thank you, Justin. And this has been amazing. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun.
Hey everyone, remember to join us in the Private Financial Freedom Podcast Facebook group with me, your host, Lorna Poole. This is a safe haven of like-minded wealth-getting go-getters who, like you, are on their journey to creating financial freedom in their life. This is where you and I can get intimate. I can give you the support and guidance to go from where you are now to where you want to be, developing your wealth mindset and creating your financial freedom life. Join at www.facebook.com/groups The Financial Freedom Podcast. You will see the links to this on the website. It's in the show notes, or type it into the Facebook group. All you have to type in is Financial Freedom Podcast and you will see us there. Look forward to seeing you in the group. Take care. Thank you for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, to creating wealth, investing, and developing your money mindset. To get started today on your journey, head on over to www.lornapoole.com and grab your free course, 5 Steps to Breaking Free from Your Poverty Mindset and Accelerating Your Journey to Financial Freedom. See you there.